नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं हूं गिरीश मीरचंदानी और आप देख रहे हैं ट्रांस इंडिया रियल पीपल रियल इमोशंस। आज के एपिसोड में हम दो अहम मुद्दों पर बात करेंगे। सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे कैसे महाराष्ट्र में लाखों ट्रकर्स और ट्रांसपोर्टर्स को रियायत मिली। कुछ साल पहले भारत सरकार ने ट्रक्स पर एक्सल लोड बढ़ा दिया था, लेकिन वो मैंडेटरी नहीं था, वो वॉलंटरी था। इसका मतलब ये है कि कोई ट्रांसपोर्टर अगर अधिक लोड उठाना चाहे तो वो एक्सेस फीस भर के अपने आरसी पे उसे एंडोर्स कराकर वो 25% एक्स्ट्रा माल उठा सकता है। लेकिन कई ऐसे ट्रांसपोर्टर्स हैं जिनका वॉल्यूम का काम है और उन्हें ये एक्स्ट्रा लोड उठाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। फिर भी महाराष्ट्र ने इसे एक तरीके से कंपलसरी कर दिया था। मजबूरन इन ट्रांसपोर्टर्स को वो एक्स्ट्रा फीस देनी पड़ती थी जिसकी ज़रूरत नहीं थी। AIMTC और बॉम्बे गुड्स ट्रांसपोर्ट एसोसिएशन के फॉर्मर प्रेसिडेंट मलकीत सिंह बल और BGTA के फॉर्मर जनरल सेक्रेटरी सुरेश खोसला ने कड़ी मेहनत करके हजारों लाखों ट्रकर्स को ये रियायत दिलाई कंटिन्यूस फॉलोअप के जरिए। हम इस पर चर्चा करेंगे और साथ ही साथ हमारे आज के इंटरव्यू सेगमेंट में हम बात करेंगे वानी रिकी मेहरा से, जो कि वाइस प्रेसिडेंट है Euler Motors की। Euler Motors is an EV manufacturing company manufacturing small vehicles for the cargo segment for last mile delivery. At the same time, we'll also take a look at how commercial vehicles have performed in June as well as the Q1 of this financial year. Stay tuned, हम हाजिर होंगे इस छोटे से ब्रेक के बाद। आप देख रहे हैं ट्रांस इंडिया रियल पीपल रियल इमोशंस।
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस।
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है। एक्शन।
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है। एंड एक्शन।
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे।
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों।
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो। महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस। महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज।
वेलकम बैक फ्रेंड्स, आप देख रहे हैं ट्रांस इंडिया रियल पीपल रियल इमोशंस। किसी कारणवश रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री की मुसीबतें ख़त्म ही नहीं होती हैं। वो एक मुसीबत से बाहर आते हैं, उसके पहले ही दूसरी मुसीबत उसका इंतज़ार कर रही होती है। ये सदियों से चला आ रहा है, कोई नई बात नहीं है ये। कुछ साल पहले आउट ऑफ द ब्लू द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट एंड हाईवेज अनाउंस्ड 28% increase in axle load weight of trucks. Nobody was ready for this. Transporters तैयार नहीं थे, commercial vehicle manufacturers तैयार नहीं थे. It came as a surprise. It came as a shock. However, carrying this additional load was not going to be free of cost. ट्रकर्स और ट्रांसपोर्टर्स को RTO में जाकर अपने RC को एंडोर्स करवाना था इस नए लोड रूल के साथ, और ऑफ कोर्स एडिशनल टैक्सेस देने थे। सम पीपल इन द ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री वर हैप्पी विद दिस डिसीजन। उन्हें 25% एक्स्ट्रा माल उठाने को मिल रहा था, लेकिन साथ ही साथ एक ऐसा सेगमेंट भी था जहां पर जो गुड्स है उनका वॉल्यूम ज़्यादा होता है लेकिन वेट कम होता है। उन्हें इस रियायत की ज़रूरत नहीं थी एंड द गवर्नमेंट केप्ट इट सिंपल। अगर आपको इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं है, आप अपना काम करते रह सकते हैं। आपको उसे RC पर एंडोर्स करने की ज़रूरत नहीं है, आपको एडिशनल फीस भरने की ज़रूरत नहीं है। But for some reason the Maharashtra government and the Maharashtra Transport Department read this otherwise. महाराष्ट्र में ये कंपलसरी किया गया था कि ट्रक्स को रिवाइज लोड के अंडर RC पर एंडोर्स कराना होगा, एडिशनल फीस देनी होगी। कई सालों तक मलकीत सिंह बल और सुरेश खोसला गवर्नमेंट को लिखते रहे, उनसे मिलते रहे, but that did not help. However, on 27th June, the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways finally came up with a clarification which read, "It is hereby clarified that load enhancement in RC is not mandatory for vehicle type approved before July 16, 2018. In other words, the process for registering the increased safe axle weight is voluntary for a vehicle owner who decides to carry higher loads. For such vehicles, the applicable tax shall be on the basis of GVW mentioned in the RC. इस नोटिफिकेशन के बाद मलकीत सिंह बल और सुरेश खोसला फिर एक बार महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट और महाराष्ट्र ट्रांसपोर्ट डिपार्टमेंट के पास गए और उन्हें ये दिखाया कि ये मैंडेटरी नहीं है. And luckily for the road transport industry, the Maharashtra government as well as the Maharashtra Transport Department realized this and they issued a circular almost immediately to all RTOs asking them to follow the notification. According to Malkeet Singh Bal, this has come as a huge saving for the truckers and transporters in Maharashtra. According to data shared by Mr. Malkeet Singh Bal, almost 5,70,000 trucks will benefit from this order and the savings will be to the tune of almost 1,700 crores every year. But the lesson here for the transport industry is that they need to liaison with the government on a regular basis. Bombay Goods Transport Association has been doing this very well. They can walk into the corridors of the ministry, they can walk into the chambers of the transport commissioner and discuss everything that bothers them. We hope that this practice is followed by other states and in other cities. ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री की जैसे मैंने कहा मुसीबतें बहुत हैं, लेकिन उसका हल सिर्फ ये है कि हम गवर्नमेंट से लगातार बात करते रहें, उन्हें अपने प्रॉब्लम्स के बारे में बताते रहें. बट दोस्तों एक चीज़ तय है, रोड ट्रांसपोर्ट इंडस्ट्री इज़ ऑन अ रोल एंड नथिंग इज़ गोइंग टू स्टॉप इट. काम बढ़ता जा रहा है, ई-वे बिल के नंबर्स बढ़ते जा रहे हैं, टोल टैक्स कलेक्शन बढ़ता जा रहा है और साथ ही साथ ट्रक के सेल्स भी बढ़ते जा रहे हैं. Let's take a look at retail sales figures given by the Federation of Automobile Dealers Association for June 2022 and Q1 of financial year 23. According to data released by FADA, commercial vehicle sales in June 2022 were up 89% over last June. Manufacturers collectively sold 67,696 commercial vehicles in June 2022 as compared to 35,810 commercial vehicles in last June. Breaking down the segments, LCV sales recorded a growth of 86% in June 2022, recording sales of 40,349 vehicles. The MCV segment sold 4,709 vehicles, recording a growth of 125% over last year. The much talked about HCV segment too recorded a growth of 102%, selling 19,380 vehicles as compared to 9,591 vehicles last June. In the quarter ended 2022, the commercial vehicle industry recorded encouraging growth. Sales were up 103% in the Q1 of 2022. Segment-wise, LCV sales were up 106%, MCV sales were up 104%, and HCV sales were up 110%. Well friends, talking of commercial vehicles, a new segment is emerging in the commercial vehicle space. The government has been putting a lot of focus on electric vehicles, and we now have manufacturers who are targeting the commercial vehicle space for selling electric vehicles. In our interview segment today, we will be talking to Vani Rikhy Mehra, the Vice President of Euler Motors, who have come up with products specifically for the last mile delivery, the small EV in the CV space. Coming up after this very short break, our exclusive interview with Vani Rikhy Mehra. You are watching Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका ब्लेजो एक्स सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, वरना कर दीजिए ट्रक वापस.
सॉरी अजय, महिंद्रा फ्यूरियो है. एक्शन.
महिंद्रा गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका फ्यूरियो सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देता है, नहीं तो
एक्चुअली जयो, महिंद्रा जयो है, थोड़ा चेंज है. एंड एक्शन.
महिंद्रा ये गारंटी देते हैं कि उनका जियो सबसे. चल क्या रहा है यहाँ पे?
मैम, ये चारों ट्रक ज्यादा माइलेज देते हैं, चारों.
तो ऐसा बोलो ना, ब्लेजो एक्स, फ्यूरियो, फ्यूरियो 7 और जयो. महिंद्रा के ये सभी ट्रक्स देते हैं सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज की गारंटी, नहीं तो कर दीजिए इन्हें वापस. महिंद्रा, देश की सबसे ज्यादा माइलेज देने वाली ट्रक रेंज.
Welcome back friends to Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. Friends, a new segment that is emerging in the automobile industry, including commercial vehicles, is the electric vehicle space. While electric vehicles seem at a nascent stage in the commercial vehicle space, manufacturers are gearing up to meet the growing potential demand for EVs. While we have the established players who are enhancing their product portfolio with EVs, we also have a startup that is looking to make a mark in the commercial vehicle EV space. In fact, this company says that it wants to become the Tesla for commercial vehicles. Joining us today exclusively on Trans India is Vani Rikhy Mehra, the Vice President, Sales and Mobility for Euler Motors, a company that manufactures electric vehicles for the cargo segment. We have seen that in the last few years, the e-commerce segment has grown immensely and is reaching out to every household. However, delivering these consignments is a huge challenge because of the timelines and the small lanes that you have to get into. Euler Motors is targeting this segment and others. And to tell us about this journey, let us dive into our interaction with Vani Rikhy Mehra. Thank you, Vani, for joining us. Could you tell us about Euler Motors? How was this conceptualized?
Euler Motors were basically OEM for light commercial electric vehicles. And the idea was conceptualized somewhere in 2017, 2018. Where we felt that people had to move from fossil fuels to an alternate source of energy. This is pre-COVID times, and we did a quick market survey and understood where would the niche of the product lie. We felt there was a requirement in the cargo segment in particular. If you see last mile delivery across the world, be it India, Japan, China, Europe, the typical range is within 100 kilometers, 80 to 100 kilometers for last mile delivery, intra-city logistics. This is the trend which we observed. It was very obvious. We all knew that electric vehicles would have a high upfront cost because of the lithium-ion batteries. Now 40 to 50% of the vehicle cost comes from the battery. We felt that a sub 100 kilometer range would be the right product to enter with, and hence we saw at that time the attention for electric vehicles in cargo was very low. People were still concentrating on the passenger segment. The range anxiety could very easily be taken care of. Even if the infrastructure requirement was there in terms of charging infrastructure, we could concentrate it in pockets of warehouses or heavy logistics industries. So we felt this was the right product to build and conceptualize at that point in time. So far our theory has proven that our thesis was correct. So this is how exactly we came into being with the first three-wheeler product.
So Vani, what were the factors that you kept in mind while designing this product, knowing very well that it's going to be used primarily for last mile deliveries?
Sure. So the range, like I mentioned, we typically saw intra-city logistics, charging infrastructure being within the city. Intercity will still take some time to come because you need then charging infrastructure on the highways and outside the city as well. So this was one consideration. The second, with the requirement to payload, so we spoke to a number of brands. We piloted with various prototypes of ours, be it Big Basket, Flipkart, Uran, couple of them, and we understood the sweet spot. Not only this, we also did do pilots in the retail part. We understood that a typical owner of a three-wheeler is someone who is earning his bread and butter from this vehicle, right? A fleet manager would not be earning directly, but the driver, entrepreneur, is reliant on this to run his house. And we figured that he should be able to say yes to every earning opportunity he gets in the market. They are typically market load operators. They do not have a captive use case. They go from requirement to requirement, and hence the payload should be such that he does not have to say no to any job on a particular day, which is why you can see even in the Euler spec sheet that the Euler high load is certified at 688 kgs. Versus other variants in the segment which are at about 500 kg. So we wanted to give him that leverage so that his earnability is not impacted, especially considering the high upfront cost where his EMIs are going to be slightly higher than those of the ICE variants. So we wanted to give him the capability that if he has a business opportunity, he earns effectively and efficiently throughout the year.
Coming back to the designing stage, Vani, how difficult was it on the drawing board, knowing that you had to keep various aspects in mind, such as distance, weight, range, all these things?
I think drawing board was still easier. Getting the first prototype on road was the most difficult part.
Vani, take us through the challenges in making the first prototype. And what was the kind of customer reaction when you pitched to them with this new product, this new company? What was their thought process?
Sure. So, we had a vehicle ready, and we thought the most difficult part of getting the vehicle running on road is done. So we're talking back of 2017, 2018. Electric vehicles were still very, very niche segment. The awareness today is multiple folds up. In 2017, 2018, we had these, Chinese assembled vehicles in the market, which were comparatively low performing. People had burnt their fingers, heard some stories, treated electric vehicles like toys. So when we went to clients and pitched to them that, why don't you try this vehicle for your last mile delivery, it seemed like a joke to them. They were not at all confident that an electric vehicle can take up their last mile fleet. They had strict SLAs, customer experience was important. We used to get questions like, can it climb flyovers? Can it go in the underpass? What type of payload will it carry? So those were some questions where, we had to purely prove by concept. Like we had to do a proof of concept, run pilots, convince them, and once they saw it's working, the confidence instilled and kept on increasing. The other challenge was on the servicing part. A Tata Ace or any equivalent, you can get any Ramu Shamu mechanic on the roadside to fix it. But for an electric vehicle, 2 wrong wires they join and it's gone. So we had to kind of train, upskill mechanics. We then started to offer a full stack mobility service so that people had comfort that yes, okay, if there's a breakdown, they are the guys who are going to tell me where to fix it also. They have that guy who will come and fix my vehicle. So it was for the adoption of electric mobility that we built the full stack solution to instill confidence. We have our own network of charging and parking along with service in all the cities we are operational. In Delhi itself, we have 10 hubs. Every hub comes with a service station. Okay. So our set of mechanics and everyone is stationed there.
How many cities are you catering to currently?
Currently, we are present in Delhi, Bangalore, Hyderabad, Chandigarh. We are in process to start Chennai, Jaipur and Ahmedabad.
Vani, the commercial vehicle segment, as we all know, is dominated primarily by the well-known brands such as the Tatas and Ashok Leylands and others. What was the customer reaction when you went to them and told them about Euler Motors? And was it a conscious decision to target the e-commerce players or the startups first?
So I think we picked up startups to be our first customers. They were part of the ecosystem, encouraging new entrepreneurs. So they were happy to see someone taking that step. But yes, I think traditional companies today also, when we speak to them, they do ask that, you're a startup, God forbid something happens tomorrow. So obviously we don't want that to happen, but there's a question that Tatas have been here and they know they will remain here for the time to come. So Euler has to prove itself there. So like I tell them, let the product speak for itself. Give us a chance to pilot the vehicle. If you're convinced, then we'll talk further. And all our conversations have resulted in further conversation.
Vani, what is the more difficult part, talking to these customers about the vehicle or pitching to them about the service? What is more challenging?
I think after sales service, or what I've observed is that is a consideration when making the purchase decision. It's an important consideration. See, we're talking about a commercial vehicle. Whether it's an institutional buyer or a retail buyer, they want to sweat the asset. So vehicle uptime is extremely important to them. If they do not have comfort on after sales service, it will not lead to a positive purchase decision. Hence, we are working with agencies to upskill the manpower. We are having licensing with the local mechanics because those are their go-to people, right? And of course, setting up our own service station so that they have the confidence that yes, okay, Delhi mein 10 hai means okay, in my vicinity there are 2, and that's how it goes about.
But it is also correct that an EV would need much less service intervals, much less service required as compared to an ICE vehicle.
Definitely, the number of moving parts are lower. However, the EV behavior is new for the customers. We've still seen the development part, and we know this is expected behavior. But sometimes it's misread by the customer. They feel there's a problem, and it's just a clarification which is required. But just the comfort of knowing that someone's going to be available at this location, I think it eases their apprehensions.
So what is the current product range on offer?
So we have the Euler High Load, which is a three-wheeler, right? It comes in different variants, right, from flatbed to high deck and the delivery van. So these are the three variants which we are offering as of now.
And what is the price range?
So the on-road price of the Euler High Load in Delhi is 4.2 lakhs.
Vani, we know that the e-commerce segment has grown significantly in the last few years, and that also is your target segment. But any other segments on your radar going forward?
Yeah, so I think e-commerce was the first mover. Like I said, there were startups willing to try new things and gave us the first customer base. It's very interesting to see that having seen e-commerce adopt electric vehicles, the traditional businesses, be it FMCG, pharma, fashion brands, retail, they are all being encouraged to adopt electric mobility. Specifically with the ESG mandates coming out, this is something which they really want to do. They have a mandate to do it now, and carbon footprint saving through electric vehicles is one of the best ways to do it.
Vani, while it is quite easy, relatively easy to reach out to organized players, to reach out to e-commerce companies, what about reaching out to the smaller players, the 1-2 truck guys who are into local deliveries, who could also be your prospective clients?
We're doing that already. See, I think at the end of the day, the single driver entrepreneur is a businessman. उसे धंधा समझ में आता है. If you can explain the total cost of ownership of an electric vehicle to that guy, the increasing fuel prices are only going to encourage him to switch to electric mobility sooner than later. So this has been our pitch. What people look for is high performance. So the test drives are there. We are ready to do test drives in their daily operations, in their daily earning capacity. We do these test drives, let them test it 1 day, 2 day, and that just instills confidence in them. And it's a small community, so one guy buying it, he'll encourage the other 4 people to buy it. So that's how retail works. We're already in the retail market, so just increasing our presence there.
What would be the percentage ratio between the organized players and the...
Roughly 15 to 20% a month for retail.
Vani, how would you compare the initial cost of an EV and the service cost vis-a-vis a regular vehicle?
The major difference is in the fuel cost. So if you see, I think it's 60 paise per kilometer in Delhi NCR versus the ICE, right?
I suppose
Yes,
much
higher.
How many EVs would you be having on road currently?
Euler High Load, we have about 400 plus vehicles on road right now.
This is...
the three-wheeler.
But this is in the 3 cities where...
Yes.
And what's your order book looking like?
So 8,000 plus order book right now for us to fulfill. So
that would be quite a waiting period for getting the EVs, right?
So we're ramping up our production capacity. We're moving to a plant very soon with a capacity of 3,500 vehicles per month. So that should take care of it.
So what would be the current capacity one?
Currently we're at 400 vehicles per month.
So Vani, what's the plan from here on? Do you plan to widen your product portfolio?
Sure, definitely. I mean, Euler Motors, like I said, was an OEM for light commercial vehicles. We want to be looked upon as a Tesla for commercial vehicles in India. So we do plan to come up with more cargo vehicles, variations of the 3-wheeler as well as maybe foray into 4-wheelers in the time to come.
Vani, what would be your plan to take on competition from established players like the Tata, Leyland? In fact, Tata Motors announced the launch of their Ace EV some time back. How do you plan to take on them?
See, I think with all due respect to Tata Motors, and they're a great brand, I would want both the products to speak for themselves. And what matters at the end of the day is the performance of the vehicle and the durability in the case of a commercial vehicle. If we can prove that on road, then I think the sky is the limit for Euler.
Vani, one of the concerns with EV is the battery replacement cost, which happens typically after 4 to 5 years. And as you mentioned earlier, the battery cost is almost 40% of the vehicle. Can you explain this? How going forward, how would this pan out?
Sure. So they're basically using lithium-ion cells, and with usage, like even in your phone, right? The day you buy it, you have a 12-hour battery backup, and then over a period of time it reduces to 8 hours and 6 hours. The same thing is going to happen with the vehicles, right? However, Euler does have patented technology. We have a US patent on liquid cooling, which allows us to operate the battery pack at an optimum temperature, which is benefit for the health of the lithium-ion cells. Hence, we are also offering an extended warranty of up to 5 years on all our battery packs, where the government mandate is for 3 years. So we do extend it up to 5 years. So that's what we see the life cycle as, a 5-year life cycle for the battery pack of the Euler high load. A replacement will come because the body of the vehicle and the other ancillaries are rated for 8 years to 10 years. So we are hopeful that with the decreasing prices of the lithium-ion cells, 5 years hence it will be much more affordable to replace a battery pack than it is today.
So going forward, the cost of batteries would come down, and that would obviously drive sales better for this segment, right?
Definitely. I think, one of the reasons why, like I mentioned, we chose three-wheeler for intracity logistics was because of the battery cost. As and when lithium-ion becomes affordable, electric vehicles in different use cases, even the medium and heavy commercial vehicles, will start to make sense.
Well, friends, that was our conversation with Vani Rikhy Mehra. We can be sure of one thing, that the EV space is going to get crowded very soon. We will have more number of manufacturers catering to this segment with more number of models and options to choose from. And we can be sure of one thing, that the increasing prices of petrol and diesel will help the sales of EVs. Well, friends, that's it on Trans India this week. Next week, we will be coming up with another very special episode where we will be talking of another major relief for the road transport industry, specifically the truck drivers. The National Human Rights Commission has come up with an advisory which talks about providing relief to drivers on various counts, emotionally, physically, mentally. We shall take a look at this advisory in detail and know how things could change for the truck drivers, if at all these advisories are implemented sincerely by state governments. See you again next Sunday on Trans India, Real People, Real Emotions. Until next week, stay safe. Jai Hind.